Hi, I'm Liana George, author and co-owner of Scrivenings Press, and welcome back to ScrivTalk, where we love shining a light on stories that encourage hearts and point readers towards hope. Today, I am delighted to welcome children's author, speaker, and storyteller Susan R. Lawrence. Susan, thanks so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you so much to have me.
Oh, we're going to have a
I'm visiting with my one of my favorite publishers, one of my favorite authors, and one of my favorite editors, all in the same person. So thank you.
Yeah, no, we're just delighted. It's such a cute story. We're going to get into that. I'm so excited to let people hear about it. But before we jump in, I want to share a little bit about Susan for those who may be meeting her for the first time. Susan grew up on a
Susan
farm
grew up
in the heart of Iowa where she developed a love for country life, storytelling, and her Savior, Jesus Christ. She spent 26 years teaching special needs children before turning her focus to writing, speaking, and storytelling. Now Susan lives and travels with her husband of 52 years, which is awesome. Congratulations on that. Her husband Gary and their rescue pup Maggie. She's also a mom, grandmother, and lifelong lover of sharing the good news of Jesus Christ through writing, speaking, and everyday life. So, Susan, we're so excited to have you. You just bring such a rich background. I could only teach school for about a year and a half, so that you spent 26 years in education is like kudos to you because I didn't make it that long.
I love teaching and would have, and even after I left teaching to write and speak, I grieved. I couldn't drive past the school for a
Oh,
while just
yeah.
because I missed the kids.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I guess you did younger grades.
I have taught everything from 2 year olds through seniors in high school
Oh, wow. Okay.
because of my background in special education.
Yeah.
I was moved around a lot
Mm,
where there was a need.
sure.
The majority of my years were in middle grades.
Oh, okay.
What my
Wow.
book said.
That's a feat because mine were fourth and fifth graders and I just barely made the cut. So I barely survived. Oh, but anyway, we could talk about teaching all day because there are stories. I bet you have a million of them. But
Yeah.
let's talk about Hank, the rescue dog, and specifically your new novel, the second in the series, which is It's the Cat's Fault. So tell me a little bit about Hank, what inspired the series, and what inspired It's a Dog's Fault, and the inspiration continuing in because we'll still have another one coming up fairly soon with Molly. So tell me a little bit about Hank and all of his adventures.
um, Hank is a scruffy dog. The third book in this series is dedicated to my rescue pup, Maggie, and I say she's the living representative of Hank, although she's not real scruffy. Um, just full of mischief, and he tells the stories.
Mm.
So that's what makes him special.
Oh, well,
Um,
yeah, go ahead.
you ask what inspired the story originally, and it's kind of an interesting story. I was out hiking, something I love to do with my good friend, and she has a daughter that is a writer, and she said, I had an idea for Christy. I want her to write a story about a boy that has attention deficit disorder and his dog,
Mm.
and I want the dog to tell the story. And we walked on a little bit, and all of a sudden, my brain starts writing the story.
Mm.
And I said, will you call Christy and ask her if she wants to write it? Because if she doesn't, I do.
Oh.
So Christy was more than happy to let me write the story, and Hank was born.
Oh.
And when I finished writing the book, it just didn't seem over with. And that's when I started getting ideas for more adventures with Hank.
Okay. Well, that's exciting. That's exciting. So, a little bit of background into this story. Hank has now um, made his home and has an intruder, which he calls a varmint, come into his world. So it just sounds like it's a perfect setup for mayhem and chaos and all sorts of fun. So, but writing for middle graders is such a special calling. What do you love most about writing for this age group, and what do you keep in mind when crafting stories for these kids?
I love because so much of my teaching years were spent with these kids, and it's such a special age because they're still kind of innocent, but yet they're very independent and can do so many things. And when you write for them, they don't want to be talked down to.
Mm,
They want things to be real. So dialogue has to be real, situations have to be real. It has to be something that they can feel that they're doing
hmm.
or could do.
Yeah, yeah, that's very true. I mean, I think it's so important that we get kids reading early, right? And
Yes.
so many times they, at least I know I have my younger daughter. She really struggled because she could never find anything that she really enjoyed. And I think that's because I didn't realize that she was more into fantasy worlds and, things like that. Um, and when she found the book that spoke to her, that's when she could not put it down. And so I think it's so important that we try to write stories that speak to them and not over them. And so I love that that's what you do with your stories. And you also include elements of faith that are woven naturally into the story. It's approachable, it's something parents, teachers, and I know probably some librarians really value. So how do you intentionally weave biblical values into, writing kids fiction?
I hope it's just like my living it,
Mm,
that it's not so much intentional as it's just how I live.
mm,
And that's how I try to write it in the stories, that I don't decide, oh, here's a lesson for faith I need to put in here.
mhm,
It just happens through the dialogue and the um I decided early on in this book, that in the first book, that I wanted to include the fruits of the spirit,
mm,
because those are characteristics of godly living, but there's something that children can relate to.
mhm,
They understand what they are, and so that's what I have done in all the books. Is they Caden, the boy, and his dog Hank focus on one or more of the fruits of the spirit.
okay. Well, and I think that's so important for kids. Instead of sitting there, teaching them about, justification and, all that kind of those big words that sometimes even adults have to deal with. But, and we don't have to, and I love that you don't water it down, because we think we have to water things down for kids, but you're keeping it very real, but in ways in simple terms that they can understand and relate to. So
I hope so.
yeah, um that's really important. But even as this your stories are have depth to them. Of course, they have humor and heart, right? And that's always a fun mix, right? So, tell me a little bit about your your history with rescue animals because they play a big role in your story. Hank is a rescue dog, and now we're adding a cat, to the mix. So, what about these animals, these rescue animals, makes them so powerful, and often humorous in children's books?
Rescue dogs are the animals that don't nobody wants, and I worked with children that nobody wanted,
Mm,
and I know that God wants them,
Mm.
Jesus died for them just the same as he did for me.
Yeah.
And I had to love some pretty unlovable kids.
Mm.
And um, I've always loved animals.
Yeah.
And when we needed, when one animal passed on, we just naturally went to the shelter and
Mm.
adopted another one. And they have all been great, great companions and a great source of stories.
Oh, I bet. Oh, yeah. We had a cat, and I one day I always thought about writing because we took him when we lived overseas for 5 years, and I always
Oh,
thought I would write a children's book called Tiger, the Expat Cat, because they are full of stories. I mean, just there's yeah, endless supply. So, yeah. And so, are you still actively working with rescue animals? Like, do you go
well,
to
our the
shelters?
dog that lives with us now is a rescue dog.
Hmm.
I the actual first dog that we got from a shelter was a yellow lab, and I took her to school. She went with me into the classroom, and she was a therapy dog. I tried to get this dog to be a therapy dog, and she actually passed all of the classes. But she was just too, like Hank, a little too rambunctious to take to settings where a therapy dog was needed.
Yeah. And
So,
how old is Hank in this book, would you say?
well, they don't know. He just came to the shelter, but
Oh,
I would put him about a year and a
here.
half.
Oh yeah, definitely in those, yeah, rough years of dogs training. Especially with a spirited dog. I don't have a spirited dog. I have a stubborn one. So
Oh,
he was a shelter dog too. And I love animal shelter dogs. I mean, I think this is our third one. And the other two we didn't get from a shelter, but we rescued from a family that didn't want them. So I do, but it breaks my heart when I go to these shelters. I want to take every one of them home. I want to, you know, I just want to love on them because I just like you said, they're the ones that nobody wants. And
if I wasn't married to the husband that I am, I would probably have about 20 dogs, more or less.
well, my daughter says that one day she's going to open up a animal rescue on our family farm outside of San Antonio. So I would not put it past her at all.
Oh,
So
good.
yeah,
I'll come and live with her.
yeah, there you go. The two of y'all can have fun. Well, let's switch a little bit and let's not talk about the dogs, but let's talk about the kids. Because as you said, um, the main character in this book has ADHD, right? And you spent over 2 decades teaching special needs children. How did that experience shape the way you tell stories and connect with the young readers?
Could you say that question again?
Oh, yeah. How has working with special needs kids shaped the way you tell stories and connect with them?
I'm not sure how to answer that because even as a very small child, I had a heart for children that struggled.
Mm,
Um, and I don't know where it came from other than God just put it in me because I didn't struggle with school at all.
mm,
I think, look back on me as an adult, I'm pretty sure I had ADHD, but
mm,
school came easily for me.
mm-hmm,
Um, so it's just important for me that children with disabilities be recognized as children and that other children see them
mm.
as just children,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
a child with disabilities, but a child.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's so important, and it's so beautifully said. And so now you said you think you had it as a child. Did any of your kids or any of your students? I mean, did you work with kids that had that a lot?
Yeah, a lot of the students in my room did. I have a daughter who had attention deficit disorder and was even on medication for it. So,
Mm, yeah. So yeah, then and I think those experiences as an author, right? They bring so much more depth to a story because you've
yeah,
walked through that, right? You're not just saying, oh,
yep.
this character has ADHD and you do some research. And there's nothing wrong with that. But they always tell us, write what you know. And so it becomes so much more authentic to the reader when you do that. So that's good. That's good. So as the series grows, because like I said, we know you've got it's the dog's fault, and now we have it's the cat's fault. We've got it's Molly's fault. Um, do you plan to write more than that in the series?
um, I hadn't planned on it. I thought, okay, this kind of rounds it out. We're done.
Okay.
But at the end of It's Molly's Fault, Molly, who is kind of a main character in book three, gets a beagle puppy.
Oh.
And I just keep thinking about that beagle puppy.
Oh my goodness gracious. Yeah, isn't that just like the Lord? And he's like, I think I'm done now. We're not done. I'll let you know when we are.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I know you talked about the fruits of the spirit, but are there any other themes you hope the children and maybe even the adults reading alongside them will walk away with?
Um, I think that there's lots of themes, lots of little threads in this book. And yes, I would hope that they would pick up on the thread. One of the threads we've already talked about is including those with disabilities. Um, Another thread is, caring and compassion for everybody.
Yeah.
Um, and and also just the thought that faith works.
Mm, yeah. Well, and I think,
Um,
yeah, I love that because that's what's needed in our world today, right?
yeah,
So,
yes.
so much. And I think that if we can find ways to just plant those seeds in children's hearts when they're young, hopefully it will, prosper and grow. Absolutely. Yeah. So good. All right. Any other things that you can think of, or you think that's pretty much?
Um, I, that's pretty much me, the writing, the books.
Well, the other thing is we're talking about kids' books, so we're not talking about 800 pages of, ideas and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, so no worries. I'm just making sure I did. I thought I might have cut you off, so I wanted to make sure I hadn't done that. So, okay, so I want to talk about your wide range of genres because you've written quite a bit. You've written children's fiction, family devotionals, historical novels, and even a picture book. So, what draws you to write in such different spaces?
It's never planned.
Mm,
When I get an idea for a book, and this is even way back when I was little, I used to talk about being inspired.
mhm,
And well, my inspiration comes from the Lord.
mm.
And when I get an idea, I just know that I have to go with it and write it.
Yeah,
So
yeah. And so, are you had the historical, you had the devotional, now you're into these children's books. Are you going to stay on there, or do you think you'll gravitate back out towards adults and devotionals?
well, I never know what's coming next. I am working currently on a cookbook
Oh my
with
goodness.
with my neighbor and my friend, and it's a cookbook and it has devotionals with the meals. So
Oh,
um kind of an interesting combination. But
It is. Wow, that's really neat. That's really neat. So, I would not have seen that one coming. So, but that's great. I mean, because we know at the heart of everything, I mean, right? Why do we have fellowships at church? It's about the food, it's about the
right.
food brings people together. Whether you're writing a cookbook or whether you're eating at the table, food brings people together, which is so great. So I love that. I'll be looking forward to seeing that. That's great. So, um, all right. So as we start to wrap things up, let's, I want to ask you, what do you want someone after they've shut the book, read the last page on It's the Cat's Fault, with just one takeaway, what do you hope it would be?
I guess I would hope that the takeaway would be, wow, that was a really good book.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
That's always what you want, right? Exactly. Yes,
yes,
absolutely.
above that is love and kindness.
Mm,
They really work.
yeah. And I think, it just popped in my head too that, um, you know, dogs and cats aren't supposed to get along, right? And with
Right.
everything we have going on in the world, it's such a simple and easy way for us to just realize, things that shouldn't get along can, and do if we, like you said, have love and kindness in our hearts. So hopefully the parents who are reading alongside their kids, which is always such a great thing and highly recommended, right? That
Yes,
yeah, that they
absolutely.
it is. It is. I value and cherish the moments I had reading to my kids. I absolutely loved it. Yeah. I was kind of sad when they were like, no, I can read this on my own, mom. I was like, but So anyway, but yeah, that's definitely. So, well, where can readers find you in your books, Susan?
I am on Facebook.
Mhm.
I never mind an email.
Okay.
I no longer have a website. I had one for a while and I no longer have a website, so I can't point anybody to my website.
Oh, it's okay.
But
I'll make sure to put
Facebook
Okay, I'll make sure to
or
put people your Facebook and your email, and maybe somebody will reach out and either praise you for what you wrote or encourage you with a new idea. What if a dog did this? Because kids have the best imaginations, right? I mean, they are just full of them if we let them, and we don't try to quench that. I'd love it if a kid wrote you and said, "Hey, Mrs. Lawrence, have you thought about this for Hank?" That would be fun. That would be really, really fun. Well, folks, I really appreciate you joining me today. Susan, I thank you so much for spending time with me and for writing stories that encourage faith, and compassion, and kindness in young hearts. It is just so needed today. And it just truly does take a special author and a special heart to be able to do that. So thank you for doing that and following God's leading. To those of you who are watching, be sure to I'll be sure to include links to the Cat's Fault and Hank the Rescue Dog series in our show notes. But if you're looking for faithful stories for kids that balance humor and heart, this series is a wonderful place to start. And then be sure to also check out Susan's other books. Her Three Dogs Tales devotional and The Flight of the Three-Winged Blackbird.
red-winged
Red wings.
blackbird.
Yeah, would be really weird if it were three rings, wouldn't it? I knew it was a wing somehow, but I literally just made a post on it. But I've slept since then, so. But anyway, she's got some delightful books, and she's got hopefully a new cookbook coming out sometime that you will be able to enjoy as well. So thank you again, Susan, for joining us. Everybody, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss out on any of the interviews we do with our wonderful Scrivtings Press authors, where you can learn more about the story behind the story. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.